All right, everyone. So, welcome back to the Founder Series. If you scroll social media, longevity looks like all these funny things: green juice, cold plunges, red lights. Although, to be honest, I like cold plunges and red lights, and $400 worth of supplements, right? And if you know me, you know I maybe have a top five. But let's be honest here, this can be just aesthetic, right? We know that true longevity isn't about living forever, it's about living better. It's the new metric that matters, extending not only lifespan, but health span. So, what does that mean? That means more years, yes, but stronger ones, clearer ones, more joy filled years. Welcome back to the Founder Series, where we talk about the business of medicine, the biology of midlife, and sometimes the messy middle where women lead, parent, build, and become. And I'm Dr. Rebbecca Hertel. I'm a certified menopause practitioner and a board certified osteopathic family medicine physician. And if you'd like, your translator between the medical literature and real life. So today we're rewriting longevity because women's health span is finally in the spotlight. And it's time to redefine what thriving really means. Some people can assume that because you or me, we run our own telemedicine practice, and that maybe I left the traditional system behind. But the truth is, I'm still doing both, you guys. I am in more of a hybrid model. I still work full time and also own my own private telemedicine practice. I'm still straddling like the insurance model, my private practice, raising and influencing 6 amazing children, and being a wife also, and trying to nourish a business that actually changes the conversation around midlife medicine. Also educating, right? Trying to teach other clinicians about midlife women's health, being advocate. While it's so amazing and wonderful and invigorating, sometimes it can be pretty exhausting too. So maybe some of you think like, what does longevity actually mean? Does it mean outworking everyone? More hours, more patience, more grit? I don't think so. Actually, longevity is about building systems that let you keep showing up without breaking down, right? So that means that you have to do all of the things to take care of yourself to ensure a better health span. So not just about biohacking, but honoring biology, right? So let's talk about biohacking, especially for midlife women. I think, biohacking isn't just about being extreme, right? But intentional about what you do, about learning how your unique biology works, making small evidence-based tweaks that actually move the needle on how you feel, think, and age. For women in midlife, this is the real biohack. And a part of that is balancing your hormones, supporting your gut and metabolism, prioritizing muscle, protein, and recovery, managing stress and sleep. And if you need a prescription for managing stress and sleep, you just let me know. And it's learning how your body wants to work, but not forcing it into someone else's schedule. And for women, that can be a lot harder than it should be. We know that there's a very small percentage of all medical research funding goes toward menopause related conditions. So a lot of the data that we're seeing, a lot of this guided wellness in midlife women didn't actually include us. So we have, all this data on men's heart health, testosterone, exercise responses, and not enough on how fluctuating estrogen, progesterone, and perimenopause can affect metabolism, cognition, and bone turnover. We have some and we're getting there. It just isn't enough. There is robust evidence of underrepresentation of midlife women in research. And we know that there's significant knowledge gaps regarding the effects of menopause on all of those things: metabolism, cognition, and bone turnover. We do have one study that we did learn a lot of things from, and in the same breath also scared us to stop using hormones. But what we really need is increased research funding and inclusion of not only menopausal, perimenopausal, and menopausal women in these studies. So, when people say things like, you look great for your age, it doesn't always feel like a compliment, right? And so it's evidence of how little I think our healthcare system actually knows about this stage of life. Interesting fact that globally, women live about 5 years longer than men, but spend a greater proportion of those years managing preventable chronic diseases with a larger health span to lifespan gap compared to men. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, we're like, yeah, women live longer, but we're sicker. We know that there's many analyses that women experience this mean health span lifespan gap, about 2.4 years wider than men, reflecting more years burdened by these non-communicable diseases, things such as cardiovascular conditions. We know that cardiovascular disease is the number one killer of women, 1 in 5 women, right? Osteoporosis. 1 out of 2 women over the age of 50 will have an osteoporotic fracture. And the metabolic syndrome, right? Dyslipidemia, hypertension, impaired fasting glucose. That's a health span gap. The difference between how long we live and how well we live. You guys, I don't want to just live longer. I want to live better. And that gap isn't about vanity or willpower. It can be about systems, right? Because most of our medical structures and work cultures weren't built to support women's changing biology. We're expected to perform the same at 42 as we did at 22, while our hormones, our sleep cycles, and our stress responsive have completely shifted. And so longevity isn't an age issue. It's also a systems issue. So in this episode isn't about perfection or performance, but it's about evidence and what the data actually says about keeping women strong, clear-minded, and vibrant for decades to come. All right, so let's go into the midlife minute. When we talk about longevity for women, we have to start with that gap, right? Not the one between men and women, but how long we live and how well we live. And I just don't think it's stressed enough. And I honestly think that we need to be talking about this at young ages, right? Like the way that we talk to our pediatricians, to our children about healthy choices, getting enough sleep, not as much screen time, getting exercise, movement. So on average, women globally live about 5 years longer than men, but most of those extra years, again, spent in managing preventable chronic diseases, like I said earlier, and that is that health span gap. We talked about, not living necessarily forever, but living more fully, more healthy, being able to go up and down the stairs, being able to carry your groceries in, being able to get up out of a chair, being able to clothe yourself, being able to bathe yourself, being able to live independently, being able to pick your spouse up off the floor. So let's talk a little bit about bone health. We know that women typically lose 6 to 10% of their bone marrow density at key skeletal sites during the 5 years surrounding menopause. So that perimenopause and up to 3 to 5 years post-menopause is the fastest rate of bone loss. And the accelerated loss, like I said, starts about 1 year before the final menstrual period, which is that late perimenopause, and can peak in that 2+ years after menopause. And then it slows down, but continues again for several years post-menopause. And that rapid bone loss is driven by estrogen deficiency, which increases bone resorption, right? And outpaces bone formation. So you're resorbing your bone more quickly than you're actually putting it down. And even simple falls can become dangerous. I have patients tell me that, yeah, I broke my ankle. I just tripped. And I'm like, you're not supposed to break a bone just tripping. This fix isn't fear. It's friction, resistance, training, impact loading, vitamin D, hormone support when indicated. I talk about this all the time. You have to make sure that you're doing the things. And most women say to me, oh, I'm not worried about my bones. Well, we don't know what your bones look like until we look at them or until you fall. Strong bones preserve mobility, independence, and confidence as we age, right? How many of you know that, and maybe you do it now. I know I go up and down my stairs a little bit more carefully than I did when I was older for fear of falling and slipping, right? Your flexibility, your mobility. Again, if I fall down, I need to be able to get up. I also just need to be able to prevent the falls. I need to be able to stand on one foot. What about muscle health? So by midlife, muscle mass naturally declines by about 3 to 8% per decade and accelerating with hormonal shifts. Adding resistance training and plenty of protein, roughly about 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal, stimulates this new growth, stabilizes blood sugar, and supports joint and bone health. Lifting and adding protein help you build strength and support healthy movement in midlife. Okay, so let me say that again. Lifting and adding protein help you build strength and support healthy movement in midlife. We don't think about it enough. Our day should be, how am I supporting my muscles? How am I supporting my brain? How am I moving effectively? And that movement is what sustains quality of life as we age. Metabolism and inflammation So, as estrogen and progesterone fluctuate, insulin sensitivity drops and inflammatory markers such as your CRP and IL-6 can rise. That means higher blood sugar, higher fatigue, and that metabolic disruption or slowdown that a lot of women can notice. Unpredictable hormone shifts can change how we process and store energy, and inflammation magnifies it. So, it's not that your metabolism is broken, it's responding to chemistry that needs regulation, recovery, and nourishment. And you guys, as we're aging, those things slow down, right? I talk about as we age, I just talked about how we lose that muscle mass and that gets replaced with adipose tissue. Muscle is metabolically more active at rest the more that you have. So the more muscle you have, you're burning more calories at rest. The less muscle you have, you are burning less at rest. So when men or women come to me and say, I haven't changed anything, well, you're 10 years older. Your body has changed. So let's talk about sleep. Nearly 60% of women in perimenopause report regular sleep disturbance. Women come to me all the time talking to me about sleep. In perimenopause, that will happen almost always. That's one of the main things is sleep, as some of the times their first symptom. So that loss of deep sleep raises cortisol, increases your appetite, hormones, and speeds bone loss. Listen, I will tell people all the time, if you are hungry, are you sleepy? Are you thirsty? Check those two things because you may not just be hungry. You may need to go to bed. It's not time to stay up and keep doing those emails. Go to bed. Go drink some fluids. So a recent study had showed that 7 hours of sleep was linked to lower mortality and better cognition a decade later. So rest isn't indulgence, you guys. It's the nightly repair cycle that your body cannot live without. Listen, I will tell you, even in the last 3 to 5 years, I have to get to bed. I am like 9:30. And if I let my circadian rhythm just like do its own thing, I would probably sleep in until like 8 o'clock. I used to be up at 6, used to get up and like have some coffee and do all the things. Like my body's like, not anymore, girl. So let's talk about stress. Chronic stress flattens your cortisol curve, weakens immunity, and shortens these telomeres. Those are protective DNA caps tied to biological aging. Women who practiced 15 minutes of mindfulness daily for 8 weeks had about 10% longer telomeres than those who didn't. Pretty interesting stuff. So stress is not just emotional, it's metabolic. Every pause you take is biochemistry in your favor. Make sure you're practicing mindfulness. Make sure that you are taking that time for yourself. It is hard to do when we are busy, but sometimes just that drive home in silence, nothing on, don't talk to anyone. Take some deep breaths throughout your day. Take those just short steps of where you're just taking some breathing exercises. You can even listen to mindfulness in the shower, in the car. Okay. When you look at all of this together, bone loss, muscle decline, metabolic shifts, sleep disruption, and chronic stress, longevity isn't about adding candles to the cake. It's about designing a body and mind that's resilient enough to enjoy the years we already have. And awareness is that first intervention. And we want to make sure the years that we continue to have are those years where we are strong. And so we can enjoy and have joy and have better health in those years that we continue to have. So let's go in the lab. And now that we know the why, let's talk about how. So every system in your body, whether it be hormonal, musculoskeletal, metabolic, neural, is interconnected, right? I'm an osteopath, you guys. We know your body is a system. Like everything interconnects. If your back is out, I'm going to be looking at some things like, your gallbladder, or if your neck is out, I'm going to be looking at something else. If you're having chronic somatic dysfunctions, I'm going to be looking at, is there something internal that's causing it? Okay. You can't isolate one and expect longevity. They operate as an ecosystem, right? The body is interconnected, everything. Think of what follows as like your 6-pillar framework of thriving in midlife and beyond. So number 1, load your bones. High impact and resistance training increase spine and hip bone strength by 1 to 2% per year. And that's according to the Lift More trial. So 2 or 3 progressive sessions a week. Y'all know I like 3 to 4, but the studies show at least 1 to 2. Protects hips and spine and lower your fall risk. Number 2, preserve your muscle. For every pound of muscle, burns about 13 calories a day at rest and improves insulin sensitivity by 12 to 15%. Prioritize protein at each meal, you guys, and lift something heavier than your laptop or your phone. Okay. Put those little pink weights away, girls. I have seen y'all lift. We lift kids. We can lift more than 5 to 10 pounds. Protect your brain is number 3. So we know that, 2/3 of Alzheimer's cases occur in women. Hormone therapy doesn't prevent Alzheimer's disease, but if started within the first 5 years of menopause, there is a correlation with a lower risk of cognitive decline. Sleep, hydration, and curiosity amplifies those gains. Number 4, balanced blood sugar, keeping post-meal glucose under 140. Listen, if you all don't have a glucose monitor, continuous glucose monitor, you legit can get them on Amazon, D-Lo. Go to my Amazon store. I have them on there too for like $100 for 2 of them. Throw it on. You would be amazed at the data that you get on what certain foods will do to your sugar. I had no idea. Like I work out. I feel like I'm pretty darn healthy. And when I threw that thing on and saw what certain carbohydrates, like healthy carbs, sweet potatoes, bananas, did to my sugar, it was really scary. So definitely someone may argue 130, 140. Some will say 150, keep that post-meal glucose under there. And that helped reduce inflammatory markers as well. Pair your carbs with fiber. Walk after your meals. Listen, I'm telling you, if you're going to have a high sugar meal, get yourself moving. And again, I did this with my continuous glucose monitor. I had one of those amazing Starbucks cake pops. Yeah, they're like so good. And my blood sugar spiked and stayed spiked, and it freaked me out. So I ran up and down my stairs 6 times. And that's how long it took for my sugar to go back down. Okay. And breathe before you open your inbox or your text messages. Number 5, hormone and anti-inflammatory support. So declining estrogen can raise those cytokines IL-6 and TNF-alpha. And women who begin hormone therapy within 5 years of menopause had lower CRP and better vascular elasticity. So things like omega-3, colorful produce, polyphenols, some of those can reduce hot flashes in some women as well. Number 6, stress less, age better. So flatter cortisol slopes means faster aging. 8 weeks of 15-minute daily meditation. And you guys, I don't like to meditate. It's boring, but it works. But I have to listen to something because otherwise my brain's like, oh, what's on my grocery list? What emails? I got to talk to patients. Did I do this or that? So I have to listen to like a mindfulness thing. I can't just sit there and zen out in nothing. So if y'all can, that's really awesome. I cannot do it. So daily meditation doesn't have to be long. Even 5 minutes of daylight and breathing between tasks can help reset your system. I know, it's cool, right? Like watching the sun come up, watching the sun go down, circadian rhythm, it really is a thing. And why do they work together? So bone, muscle, brain, metabolism, and hormones and stress aren't separate. They do reinforce one another. Strong bones enable movement, muscle stabilizes metabolism, balanced hormones protect cognition, steady glucose calms inflammation. Kid stuff. Can't detail. Oh my goodness. Rest preserves cell life. It's a self-sustaining loop of resilience, and you don't have to piece it together alone. At Osteopathic Midlife Health, this is what we build every day. Personalized, evidence-based longevity plans, hormone optimization that meet you where you are and evolve with you. Because longevity isn't one size fits all. It's precision medicine for the second half of your life. So if this episode gave you a sense of what's possible for women who stop waiting for the system to catch up, subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It allows more women and more people to listen. And that way you'll never miss the Founder Series. If you're a clinician, you can listen to this on the Pinnacle app and earn CME. Make sure you leave a quick rating and review. Again, it helps other women find credible information in a space too often filled with noise. And if you're ready to build your own plan, hormone optimization or longevity plan, visit osteopathicmidlifehealth.com and book your consultation. We'll map hormones, muscles, bones, metabolic health so you can extend your health span and actually enjoy those extra years. And while you're there, make sure to sign up for the Midlife Minute newsletter, which is your weekly dose, twice a week even, of clarity, science written for real women in real life. And share this episode with someone who needs a reminder that thriving isn't a privilege, it's a practice. So I'm Dr. Rebbecca Hertel, and this was your Midlife Longevity Edit, what it actually means to age well. And remember, longevity isn't about outliving everyone else. It's about staying vital enough to love what comes next.